Hello, this is Marshallee and welcome to my garden diary. Today I would like to look at the topic of mulching. And in my garden, we have mulched, I think, twice, but I do not like to mulch. We've mulched twice with chip bark, and then I've tried mulching with the grass from the lawn. That you could also use that to mulch, but I don't like either options because the first one with the chip bark, yeah, so I just don't like it. I don't know why. So here, for example, is we have some chip bark left over, and I think this is from, I think, at least 3 years, because it has been at least 3 years since I've mulched with the chip bark or bark chip. So, and then there are some big pieces in different parts of the garden that are left over. So for me, there's some here, somewhere. Oh, here. I really can't believe I really used that big of a bark, but yeah, because the bark that we got was not, they didn't all have the same size. So we've used chip bark last year, and the year before I used grass. So whenever Marcus, my husband, cut the grass, I would just use that, or the lawn, I would use that to mulch different places. So for example, I would put the grass like there, and I didn't like that either. So what are some of the alternatives to mulching? Because the fact is, the main reason for mulching is to cut down the weeds. And as you can see in my garden, there are weeds there everywhere. So beside that's a weed there, and most places there are weeds down there that I need to get to. So yeah, there are weeds all over the place, and this year it has been good. I've had worse years where it was just very hard to keep on top of the weeds. And one of the reasons why this year is better is because I am coming up with a system that will prevent weeds from growing in the garden. But it's a system that takes time to develop and time to grow, because my mulch are things that grow, like, so I think of it as live mulch. So I use plants, other shorter ground cover as my mulch. So I have different varieties of plants that I use to get in between spaces between plants so that weeds don't grow. So I have some different techniques that I use. One technique is to use sedums. So here I have these sedums here, and I have another video on this. So if you want to find out more information about the sedums, then the individual sedums, then you can check in the playlist. I have a playlist with sedums. So here we have this sedum, and you can see that it's quite low, but it also have very nice yellow blooms. And at this edge of the garden here, it was just one of those difficult places to get weeds out of, because it's quite rocky and the soil there isn't very good. So sedums, this kind of sedum is one of my mulching hacks. So I have this kind of sedum right across here. So, and they bloom, so that looks very good. So that's another type of sedum that is there that is also quite attractive and has nice blooms. And here, so I don't have to deal with weeds right there. Here there were asters and there's nothing there because I cut them back right now, but the sedum from there will grow here, and as you can see there are no weeds here because the plants were recently cut back, so that's okay. Then a little bit in, another type of ground cover, and that is the campion that I need to go in and deadhead it. But if I don't, that's also okay because there's no way for it to sow itself out or anything like that. So I don't have to rush to deadhead that. But here we have campion. Again, there's a video in the playlist with ground cover, and you can see it goes around this rose here, and so no weed will grow there. And if we go a bit over, another hack for mulching, we have the bellflower, and I really like that. And the idea is that the bellflower will come here and then take up that space there. We have some Turkish carnation, all of those are seedlings. I am going to take away most of those because I have enough seedlings for next year already, so I don't need all of that. Here we have an empty space there, but there aren't so many weeds there. And then the bluebell from that side there, the bluebells that are there will come over here and meet with the campion or catchfly here. And so all of here is basically taken care of where the roses are. There are still some weeds that are there that I need to go in, but it's not close to what has been there before. So when I clean up this area here, it won't take me very long, and then the plants will grow together. Okay, so we have the campion, which is there. We have the sedums that we have looked at, 2 different types of sedums that are there, and campion, sedums, bellflower, and then I also, so those are 2 different types of sedum. There's another type of seed, so all of here, no weeds or very minimal because we have the sedum growing there, and look, that is perfect with the roses. So there's no weeds there because the sedum is not detracting, it's not bothering the roses, and they grow well together, and we can see that. And here we have some more roses and the sedum going around it. I actually quite like the look of that. So no chip bark, no grass, just sedums, and they will cover the ground and also help the soil not to get too dried out too fast. So here we have this sedum here that now it's blooming, but that's what it looks like when it's not blooming. So it's just like a really good carpet there. And underneath that, I actually have spring bulbs. And I was a little bit scared in the spring that they wouldn't come up. But right at this area had lots of lilies, not lilies, tulips and daffodils. So they did push up through the sedum that is covering here. So you can plant sedums and have bulbs under that, and it won't be a problem. Here we have another type of sedum that is looking really good, and we have a weed growing in there somewhere, but it's so minimal. I think the sedum will just there it is. That shouldn't be there, but it's so minimal that I won't even bother. I can hardly see it. I really like the way this is looking. The blooms here are spent. Okay, and then if we go in between that plant, there is a phlox. There's a snail underneath there. Yeah, where is it? at the top. Yeah, snail. I think I'll just leave it. All right, so as we can see here, the the sedum is growing in between the flux there, which is excellent. So it's just like a forest, like a forest floor going on in there. And then this is another plant that hasn't bloomed yet. I look at it. I plant them. They're not. It's not just one clump of plant here, but I plant them so that they will grow into each other. And if the plants are growing into each other like that, then there's also not a lot of space for weeds to grow. So right here is okay. And then I have another campion here that will grow. This campion will grow into there and fill out this area there. I have a golden basket, I think is there. And so this part here will fill out by, I will think that by autumn, this whole area here will be filled out and I won't be seeing any soil in a while. So let's review, not mulching, but sedums, campion or catchfly, bellflower or bellflower plant. Those are good ground cover for the garden, which I use in my garden, and they're working pretty well now. And then planting plants close together, not close together that they stifle each other, or that each plant don't have their space, but close enough that they the leaves connect together and then it's just one flow. So if I back up in this, I'm quite pleased with this area of the garden. If you can see from way back there to right up here, there might be some weeds in there. Like that side I need to continue working on. But apart from that, I'm quite pleased with this side of the garden. There is absolutely nothing that I need to do in this side of the garden until I'm cutting back things. And I won't even go in to cut back anything, because the blooms that are spent, I just think it just looks so attractive. So it might seem as if everything is growing together or things don't have space. But in between all the plants, each plant has enough space. It's just that the plants have gotten big enough that they just fill out the space that is there. So each plant will have maybe a foot of space around it. But when they bloom or when they flower or when the foliage comes out, it just covers that foot of space that is around it. And if a plant is getting too big, then I'll go in and then divide it. But this year, there is absolutely no weeding that I have to do in this part of the garden, except for that little part there that I still need to figure out what I would like to put there so that the whole area here is filled out. Yeah. So that's the whole idea. Don't want to use any grass, don't want to use any bark chips. I just want the garden to fill in so that all the space is taken up. And if the space is taken up by plants that I have deliberately planted that are blooming, then there is no room for weeds. So there's no weed growing there. There's absolutely nothing that I need to go in and pull out there. So yeah, so the most that I have to do in the garden this year is just to deadhead things. And for this part, I won't deadhead anything, because even the seeds that are there, well, one, I can't get in there. it's very difficult to get in there right now because everything is just so grown together. And two, I don't really have to deadhead the things that are there because the seeds that are there will find it very hard to plant themselves out because they won't get enough sunlight and so on. When I go in autumn, I'll start when it start getting very cold. I might start, cutting back stuff. But there's nothing new that I'm going to do in this area next year. So I'll just leave everything as it is, and that area will take care of itself. So, yeah, the only thing that I need to look at here is here, that space there, because I think I thought the baby breath would have come out a bit more, but that's okay. The sedum will go there as well, and I think there's some forget-me-nots that will come up. So that area is finished. That area is, I like it, except for that one little part there. This area is finished, and then I need to work on this area of the garden to see, because I'm still having a little bit of issue with weeds here. It's not a lot, but I would like to optimize how it looks. And the ox eye there, I will take them and put them. They will go to another part of the garden. So yeah, that's how I deal with mulching. I'll show you what how that works with the other part of the garden that's new, that we're still working on. Actually, we haven't done that much, and yeah. So here is a new part of the garden. As you can see, there's something going on, but it's not planned out yet. So I'm just basically leaving it. But what I did, I planted some Turkish carnation here, and in between we still have some spaces there, and there are some weeds in there. But the Turkish carnation they're about a feet apart, but you wouldn't think that they are a feet apart, but right there it's 1, 2, 3, 4 different plants, but they are growing into each other. And as you can see, those look very lush. They won't bloom this year, or maybe they will bloom in fall or later, but next year this will be very, very showy blooming for these next year, because they're perennials. So you plant them this year if it's a first planting, and they will definitely bloom next year. Some of them are blooming because I transplanted these from the other part of the garden that have so much of these plants. So yeah, so here I won't have to do much ground covering because as you can see, the plants are filling out the space here, and after a while there will be no weeds anymore. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope that you are inspired or have some ideas what to do if you don't want to mulch, other alternatives to mulching. And yeah, so I've been cutting back lots of things in the garden, even though that looks like lots of blooms. I'm really trying to keep on top of everything, because I really don't want any more Turkish carnations to plant themselves out. Look, all of that there are seedlings and I'm just going to leave them and see where I can plant them. But yeah, keeping on top of deadheading things so that I don't have too many unwanted plants. Yeah, and that's the next point too. I think I might have mentioned it before, but when there's ground covering, when I have the sedums and the campions and the bluebells, then things won't plant themselves out so much or at all because the seeds won't find soil to germinate on, and then the garden won't be so chaotic because things will just be where I want them to be and not where seeds decide to sow themselves out. And if you're like me, when something sows itself out, it's very hard for me sometimes to pull up things because it's you just want everything to have a chance to survive. But I mean, I am a cottage garden person, but sometimes it's just too much. Like this year with the Turkish carnation, it was just a bit much. So yeah, hopefully that won't happen anymore when the ground covering situation has panned itself out, as we would say. And then the garden, wherever there aren't big plants, will just have a floor covering looking like that. I think that is really, really nice. Sedums, even if the other plants are not there and it's just sedums, I think that's really beautiful. Yeah, with the yellow and the pink and the coral color over there as well. I highly recommend sedums. And when the Turkish carnations are not here anymore, then the bluebells will shine through with their purple blooms, and the catchfly or the campion with their white blooms. So, yeah, okay, now I'm definitely finished. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.